Hi everyone. I wasn't actually planning to make any changes to my FPL draft until later this week. However, the announcement from yesterday means that I need to radically overhaul my own FPL draft. But before we get into it, this channel can't continue without your support. So if you can like, share, and subscribe, that will be greatly appreciated. So my new draft update is basically in relation to these new guidelines that were issued. So I saw this tweet yesterday evening uh, that is going to cover Premier League and EFL matches, and they're essentially going to add World Cup style amounts of injury time to matches as part of a crackdown on time wasting at the heart of new refereeing guidelines that will be enforced for next season, i.e., 23-24 season. So that is going to have a lot of implications across the board. And it's something that I feel that not a lot of fantasy football content creators have really factored in as of yet. And just to put this into context of what like World Cup style injury time basically means, the match that sticks to my mind is England against Iran at the 2022 World Cup, when it was like almost 120 minutes of football, which just seems absolutely balmy. And of course, not every match went over 100 minutes in the World Cup, but a significant number did ultimately. And this, I'm not going to say it's going to be the norm that we get 100+ minute matches, but the reality is injury time is significantly going to increase in the first half and second half of Premier League matches. And it's something that we need to be prepared for. And ultimately, there'll be several implications from an FPL perspective with this guideline that's been issued for referees. So, what really sticks to mind for me initially is that there'll be more chance of goals being scored and clean sheets being conceded, lost late on. So, that's something that is going to obviously be problematic for some. Also, the opportunity for more game time through injury time means it's better for attackers, in particular those that are expected to have good X-mins. It's also worse for defenders as a whole, in particular for centre backs who seldom get substituted. They're kind of just sitting there like sitting ducks until a goal is conceded late on. Having said all that, I think it's now hard to justify having 4 starting defenders. That was my default pretty much from mid-June before the game was launched up until now. All of my formations relied on 4 starting defenders. I just can't justify it anymore due to these rule changes. I say rule changes, guidelines from the Premier for the Premier League referees. I also think that this is going to heavily impact those attackers that are expected to get low X-mins anyway, as they essentially lose out on this extra time that's become available. So with that all that in mind, I'm going to go straight to my current FPL draft and go through the changes that I'm going to make right now. So from the get-go, I have to get rid of Gabriel. I just feel that he is a sitting duck. Of course, he's got the goal threat, but I'd rather have a defender who is not a centre-back as a default. Akanji also goes. He's all just a risk of X-mins, doesn't offer much else for my team with this problem that's cropped up. I feel that a 5.0 goalkeeper is now essentially a premium goalkeeper. And with Onana, I was willing to give him a chance to have United cover in defence. But then you look at the fixtures with Spurs, Arsenal, and Brighton coming up as well. He's new to the Premier League. So let's just look for a cheaper goalkeeper there. Coming on to the midfield, and also my forwards actually, I feel that it's no longer sustainable having 2 dud sub strikers. So I'm going to have one 4.5, but I'm just going to get rid of both for now. And I also need to unlock funds from somewhere. And the player that I really was keen to have in my team, I'm going to have to make him the shift out player here, just purely because there are other players I can get in to balance up my squad. So with regret, Odegaard has to go. Like I've said, his expected stats are looking very good. His ex-mins are also looking very good, but then we don't know what the impact will be with Havertz in the team as well. So just for now, he's out. But again, he might play a starring role in the Community Shield, and I might get him in after all. So this brings me to the goalkeepers, first of all. I'm going to go for a 4.5 keeper, and you're all probably thinking it's Jordan Pickford. No, it's not. I just can't really justify getting Pickford in due to the way Everton have been of late, and I want someone who also has a very generous run of initial games as well, and I'm going for Jason Steele. I know Pickford's fixtures, I mean, just to show you here, seem reasonable, but then you look at Fulham, Villa, could potentially concede in those matches, and then you've got Arsenal coming up as well. So I'm not going for Pickford. It's Jason Steele, and yes, I've got the double up for Brighton, but I'm willing to take that risk for the initial fixtures. If it all goes wrong, I can wildcard him out, or I can start Areola if he becomes a starting keeper for West Ham. Coming on to Arsenal now, and the defenders. I'm just going to sort this by percentage just to make it easier. Yeah, Gabriel and Saliba, due to the new refereeing guidelines, can't justify either of them. Ben White, he's just $500,000 out of my price range. I have to go for Zinchenko. And I know there's issues with injury as well, but then I'm hoping also with this extra time and with Zinchenko at times being substituted as well, that perhaps there's an opportunity to protect his clean sheet in the event that he has to go off. So Zinchenko is there, and this is basically forcing me now into a 3-man defense. So Akanji goes, I need a 4.0 defender, and yeah, the pickings are fairly slim. Bell's got the blank in too, but I'm going to basically go for him, essentially. I'm hoping that from all the 4.0s, he's potentially likely to get the most minutes, barring the blank. Yeah, Bayer, blank as well. Not sure how many minutes Cavore will get. And then you go further down, it gets less and less. The only other 4.0 defender that I would consider, but I want to see if he's getting game times early on, it is Brantwaite at 4.0 million. But I don't know if he's actually going to get any minutes. I'm not sure if he's a guaranteed starter as of yet, but if I do get information that he's likely to start, I'll switch Bell out for him. This brings me on to the final 3 spots, and I've got 19 million left. So I'm going to use this opportunity to get another 6.5 million midfielder, and we have a lot of options in that price range. And Eze was a close call, and Ciso, there's a risk of ex-mins. Almiron, can't really consider him. I'm going to Mbeumo. I just feel that with Tony not being there, that if there's a player who's likely to get a healthy number of ex-mins and is involved in goal involvement for Brentford, it has to be Mbeumo. Just makes total sense to get him in as my 6.5 for the time being. I'm also going to get a 4.5 dud sub, but I want someone who's hopefully going to get the odd minute here and there. Archer seems like one option, but there's one who stood out in pre-season, and it's Mubama of West Ham. So not expecting him to start, but if he gets minutes here and there as a sub 3, I'm happy with that. So that leaves me with 8 million in the bank, and I've got one position to fill. That's a striker position. And of course, everyone's thinking he's going for Jesus. But I just feel that actually, with the new refereeing guidelines, Jesus actually loses out, because if he's going to get subbed off on the 65th or 70th minute, and then you've got 110 or 115 minutes worth of football, then that's problematic. It's essentially he's almost losing out on half a match. So what I'm going to do is pick a player who's got a healthy number of X minutes, someone who's proven in the Premier League, and has scored a good number of goals. And beyond the initial game against Newcastle, has a very generous run of games. It's Ollie Watkins. I feel that he seems like the viable pick for this initial run, and for the budget that I have, and for the parameters that I've set, which I've mentioned, it has to be him. So Ollie Watkins comes in. I know Darwin is standing out there screaming at me, X-Mins is a problem. Isak, injury, fitness and X-Mins potentially. Nkunku, well, we've got Jackson in the team. If I was going to get a Chelsea forward, it would be Jackson, but I want to see how he adapts in the Premier League first and foremost. Got Wilson there as well, but like I've said, you've got the fitness issue there as well, and also tricky run of opening games. Out of all the 8.0 strikers, excluding Jesus, it has to be Watkins, just purely due to the reasons that I've mentioned there. So there we go. I've balanced the books and I've got my players in, and I've forced myself into a 3-5-2. So I'm confirming these now. This is my actual draft as it stands. So if I go to my team, I've got Steele in goal, flip out Bell, make him my sub 2, bring in Watkins, Mubama is my sub 3, Bulldog remains my sub 1, Areola on the bench. So just save those changes now, and I'll do my famous super zoom in as well, so it's nice and clear. So starting with the back line, with the new refereeing guidelines factored in, Zinchenko, Trent, Estupinan with Steele in goal. It's not ideal having the Brighton double up, but like I've said, when it comes to their opening fixtures, and for a 4.5 goalkeeper, I can't find anyone better right now. Pickford does not come into the reckoning at all. And then coming on to that front 7, forcing myself into a 5-man midfield. The good thing is actually, when you have a 5-man midfield, that the 5th midfield slot, you can actually go for a risky differential if you really want to, because then you're covered with your other midfielders. Whereas with a 4-man midfield or a 3-man midfield, you've got to be absolutely spot on with those picks. So I had to sacrifice Odegaard. It was something that I wasn't happy to do, but the upside is still got Saka. I've got Fernandes and Rashford, healthy number of X-Mins there. And then Mitoma and Mbeumo, hoping for the healthy number of X-Mins there as well. And then the upgrade from the strikers means Watkins starts. And then Haaland, of course, is the captain. He remains there as is. And then the bench, you'd expect playing minutes from Baldock, playing minutes from Bell, hopefully, and Mubama when called upon. I know the bench is relatively light compared to some other FPL managers' drafts, but like I've said time and time again, I want to just, from the early part of the season, not lose too many points on the bench. And an early wildcard can correct any changes that I need to do. Now, having said all of this, I did a video where I showed expected FPL points for all of my drafts that I've done to date. So it's only fitting if I do the exact same for this updated draft. So factoring in all those stats there that we can see, the players that we can see, I'm going to do an update of my draft, and based upon my most recent draft, I believe my expected number of FPL points was 62. So I've just made the changes now. And this expected stats or expected points is available from Draft Hound. I'll put a link in the description below in case you want to check it out as well. So I was projected to get 62 points with my 4-4-2 formation. It probably doesn't factor, the expected points probably doesn't factor in the referee rule changes because they're so recent in terms of when they were announced. But I've got no doubt if that gets factored in, then those with a 4-man defense could see their xFPL points getting reduced. So for now, there's not been a significant change in the points difference there. But the benefit here is that I'm not relying on centre backs holding out for a last minute goal being conceded, and then the whole season, well, the whole game is completely wrecked as a result of that. So I've got the peace of mind that with the defenders I've got right now who are starting, that I can rely upon an attacking fantasy return hopefully every now and then if need be. And then with the midfield, it screams of X-Mins, the forwards, except for Haaland because he can get subbed off early but still do the business. I've got a healthy number of X-Mins there as well. I feel there's balance across the pitch, and like I've said, if it doesn't work, I'll simply use my wildcard by game week 4. Now, there's still the Community Shield still to play, and that will also influence my decision making to some degree as well. In terms of players that are missing from this draft, who I wish I could have that I don't have, I'd definitely want Mohamed Salah if it was possible, because I feel that he is being heavily overlooked and has essentially become a differential. But then, of course, having Mohamed Salah will completely wreck the balance of your team. I also would be keen to have like some sort of defensive Man City asset. And I did contemplate getting Ederson in, but then it would mean weakening the midfield to some degree, or John Stones as well, because we know with John Stones, as we've seen from the most recent season, he isn't playing as a bog standard centre back. He is playing slightly advanced at times as well. So I would be interested in getting him in if I could see that he's still playing in a, well, effectively a DM position, and also if his minutes are guaranteed. So there you have it. That is my up-to-date draft with the refereeing guidelines in mind. Let me know in the comments below what you think of those changes. And as always, if you can like, share, and subscribe, that would be greatly appreciated. Take care and all the best. Thank you. Bye.